Hello, what we are about here today is stress management. I'll introduce myself first as Ray Reardon, and I'm a lecturer, just part-time now at Deakin University in Geelong. The rest of the time I get many people from within the community, many who now come from the medical profession, and I help them with a very simple and natural way of what I call relaxing meditation. And this seems to help diminish the tensions that we all have, and then we seem to cope better, and consequently we avoid stress. I thought it best to speak spontaneously on this tape without too many guidelines, and consider first of all the theory and the nature of anxiety and stress and how it affects us all. After all, we are very tense today, and many of our discomforts are caused by this anxiety. This theory will then be followed by a little guidance in the actual practice of relaxing meditation. And this is a very unique way and a very profound way of helping to diminish the things that cause anxiety, which enable us to cope better. First of all, let us consider the numerous misconceptions about stress. Many say stress is a result of romantic hassles or problems at work, financial difficulties, or perhaps your children are giving you a hard time. Really, this is not so. Those things actually don't cause stress. It's only when we cannot handle these problems, when we cannot cope with them, does stress result. Stress really occurs when the mind cannot assimilate all the stimuli which it has to deal with each day. When the mind is at ease, it will deal with these things, that's for sure. However, today, more than ever before in the history of our development, our mind has to sort through an enormous volume of information, and consequently our minds are forever working critically. Our minds really need a little time to regenerate, a little time to repose, and that's what we'll come to shortly, how we can actually do this. Before we consider how to let the mind have that little repose, let us consider a very miserable thing which I believe is at the basis of all our problems, and that is anxiety. Now, some of you people may say, well, anxiety can't cause all our problems, but no, hang on, I'll take a chance. I think anxiety is at the basis of all our problems. So you name your discomfort, can't sleep, okay, anxiety. Get headaches, worse still, anxiety. Perhaps you become irritable, again, anxiety, and so forth and so on. Anxiety really is the universal demon that causes us to travel second class. And so at some stage in our life, if our wish is to travel first class, we ought to be about getting rid of anxiety. And how are we going to get rid of anxiety? And that's what we're about here today. Let's face it, after all, the day-to-day dramas whereby little and big problems sneak up and assail us from all different angles are going to be around for many years to come. This phenomena of life, of which we're all a part, has not been completed yet. The ideal dream so many of us have of launching ourselves into some state of bourgeois tranquility is simply not on. What we ought to be about is finding a way to cope with all our problems we are confronted with in our daily lives, and when we cope, we will avoid stress. And again, how will we rid ourselves of this blight of anxiety? Well, of one thing I'm certain, all these theories of mine, all this explanation and rhetoric is certainly not going to rid us of anxiety. Intellectual analysis simply does not seem to be the answer. You see, anxiety doesn't listen to all these concepts. I believe it is time we looked at something other than reason in our bid to overcome the universal phenomenon of stress. It is time we gave our minds a little repose, a little time each day to regenerate. Then we will cope better and avoid stress. Sleep is very good for us, or going to a party, or laying on the beach. All these things are quite wonderful. But what we're about here today with our relaxing meditation is something quite different again. However, before we consider how we let our minds have this repose, let us first of all consider what actually causes anxiety. First of all, there are hurts. We have all been hurt at some time in our life, when we were little, even in recent times for many of us. the things people say, perhaps the things they don't say, the things that are done unto us, these hurts are hidden. Often they're caused by those that are very close to us. Often, too, hurts are caused through no one's fault, really. It's just a part of this whole mystery of life. Sometimes people hurt us because it's a manifestation of their own anxiety, and it's almost as though they feel if they get the first blow in, then they are safeguarded themselves. But these little hurts are hidden quite often unknowingly in little recesses of the mind. But they are there, and they are mixed up with our tension. And like I mentioned previously, reason doesn't seem to be the answer in diminishing these hurts. Quite often we may know what causes our tension, but knowing that cause doesn't seem to help much at 3 o'clock in the morning when we can't sleep. And isn't it at that time of night, when we can't sleep, the problems seem to be so enormous? And yet another cause of anxiety are fears. We all have fears, which we have accumulated way back in time, but many of these fears are still with us, and they stifle our spontaneity for life. Guilts? Properly understood, I suppose, guilts have some biological significance, but we need to diminish them now in order to live life fully. Now these things which we have accumulated, and which I mentioned through no one's fault really, they cause us to act in ways we often do not enjoy. I will come back to this point later. Now these factors which cause anxiety, the hurts, the fears, the guilts, are not got rid of by means of intellect. They do not seem to listen to reason. They do, however, seem to dissipate through the practice of a very simple and a very natural way of what I call relaxing meditation, a time when we sit down twice each day, just 10 minutes or so, that's all, and we let the mind have a little rest from working critically. And it is at this time, in this way of relaxing meditation, which is different to all other ways of meditation, that the things which cause anxiety are alleviated. We then seem to cope better, and consequently we avoid stress. However, before we consider this unique way of relaxing meditation, let us consider how the demon anxiety interrupts our joy and ease of living by causing so many of our discomforts. Anxiety can be associated with all our psychosomatic problems, headaches for some, worse still migraine, sleeping difficulties, an ache here, a gain there, and then some of us become irritable, some of us become quite fearful, depressed. We feel remorse or despair, lose confidence, lack self-esteem. Our discomfort within causes us to act in ways to try and overcome this anxiousness. And often this behaviour is so futile. We come to blame others. Some of us may drink too much. Some of us work frenetically. Some of us dither and fuss, become obsessed with perfection, eat too much. Can you see yet? Anxiety is mixed up with all our hassles. Imagine how these things affect us as individuals or those we live or work with. But still the dilemma unfolds. The scientists and doctors tell me that when we are acutely tense, our immune system doesn't seem to work as efficiently. And we know ourselves that when we are stressed, aches and pains seem a little more severe, a cold comes on a little easier, or the flu lingers a little longer, or the blood pressure is even out of sync. And now it is thought that even terminal problems, such as cancer, are associated with very severe stress. I know there are other factors, but so often anxiety is implicated also. Oh look, I could go on, but that's enough. We're simply travelling second class. And it is generally at this time when someone comes along and says, look, you will have to relax, and a further anxiety is born. You see, really the whole secret to what we are about here is you don't have to relax. We feel the immediate ease, not having to relax. And as we let ourselves relax quite effortlessly, the mind begins to follow suit. And it is at this time, in this state of repose, when the mind is allowed to function non-critically, that the hurts, the fears and the guilts diminish. The anxiety eases, we cope better, and consequently we avoid stress. And then all those hassles, can't sleep, lack of confidence, Headaches, high blood pressure, irritability, you name it, they all come right. Surely life is better somehow. Some people say I claim too much, but really I'm only claiming one thing. Let's sit down twice a day and really experience the letting the mind have this little rest. I'll go a step further. For those who can hang in with this way of relaxing meditation, then it is the most profound thing you will ever do. Now there is an all-embracing statement, but I really mean that. The real wisdom of it comes through in time when the tensions and the anxieties have cleared and your mind takes on this new clarity and you come to know in a different way. However, I know also that your mind will try all kinds of tricks to avoid its own peace. It will try devious ways to avoid the practice. It's too easy. I'm all right now. I know a better way. What if I slow down? I haven't got the time. That's its favourite one. And when it's at its brilliant best, it doesn't offer any excuse. It simply doesn't do it. Now the key to what we are about here is in the practice, not in this theory, and so there is a need for some form of discipline. But I don't like that word discipline, because nowadays discipline is mixed up with coming on heavy with yourself or being too severe on yourself. But rather than that type of discipline, try this other way, which is, okay, I'll trust him. I'll go along with him on this one. I'm going to hang in with this practice twice a day, 5 or 10 minutes or so. I'll make an easy commitment to the practice. Even if my mind says, no, this is selfish, you should be with the children. No, hang on. Do a little practice first. See what I mean? This is a wiser use of the mind. This is an easy discipline. I will stay with the practice for a little while at least, and if I become restless, this is simply a manifestation of anxiety, I will stay with my practice without any force whatsoever. Remember, what we are about here is very natural. There's nothing airy-fairy or mumbo-jumbo about it. We're not concentrating on anything. We're not trying to shallow out our breathing. We're not trying to launch ourselves in some state of tranquility. In fact, we're not trying to do anything. Just for this 10 minutes or so, we are just going to let ourselves be here. Now, we have established an easy commitment to the daily practice of our meditation, but how do we do our practice? Well, we can all relax physically, and so that is where we start. No matter how anxious we are, how depressed we are, doesn't matter whether we've been overly fathered or underly mothered, we can still relax physically. My arm relaxes. Now I can feel that. I'm not trying to achieve anything, simply letting the arm relax. Now I feel that in my mind, and as my body relaxes, the mind relaxes. Do you see what's happening? As we let ourselves relax physically, the mind can follow. And it is at this time of non-critical use of the mind that we get well. So it is the feeling, nothing more. How about just for a moment, even as you're listening to me, let your eyes close. Now feel a total helplessness, almost a complete submission, physically. All parts of the body relax. And at the same time, now let your mind relax, quite effortlessly. There you are. You feel it. That is an experience. Now we're on the right track. It is this feeling, more than the feeling, the experience. No concentration, no trying to achieve a state of calm, just letting the stillness come quite effortlessly. Perhaps even as I've been talking just the last few moments, you have already felt a little of what I'm about. Now, when doing your own practice, sit in slight discomfort. That's most important. If you flop in an armchair or lay on a bed, you'll end up with just a degree of lethargy. And what we're about is much more than that. What we are about here is really bringing the power of the mind into play. Let me explain. Sit on a kitchen chair. That's better. Let your eyes close. Let yourself relax physically and feel that in the mind. In a moment or so, it doesn't worry us that we're sitting on a kitchen chair. And that means now the mind is doing the practice. The power of the mind has risen above the slight discomfort. I haven't explained that very well. Just go along with me, that's quite important. When I do my practice, I sit on the floor with my legs crossed and my back against the wall. But there's just a little degree of discomfort, and that little degree of discomfort helps us with what we are about here. I wonder if just for a moment or two we have a little practice. We'll do our practice where we all are at this moment. So if you're sitting in an armchair, that's okay. We'll cheat a little just for this time. It's a good idea to sit with your back up against the chair and your feet together on the floor. Don't cross your legs because sometimes that can cut the circulation. It's another good idea to keep your head relatively upright so you don't place too much stress on the neck muscles. If during your practice your mind wanders a little to this, that or the other, no worries. We're not trying to stop it. But when you are aware that it's wandering, what I do is I come back to the face, feel a calm in the face, forehead, and then the mind will settle down of itself. But if we try too hard, then we're on the wrong track. Remember, there's no concentration, there's no visualizing, no imagery. We're letting ourselves relax quite effortlessly. So just for a few moments, let your eyes close. And right from the outset, we will feel that what we are doing here, we don't have to do it. Not having to relax. Not trying to do anything. Any discomfort at all, we let ourselves go with it. Easily, effortlessly. Don't even have to listen to me. If there's any noise, we let ourselves go with it. Soon it doesn't worry us. Just for a few moments we'll leave our worries outside the door and we won't try and do anything. All members of the body, the arms, face, feel a calm in your face. Feel it there deeply. Feel it smooth out your forehead. More. Good. Not trying to do anything. Just for a few moments. Not trying to do anything. And as the body is calm, and the mind is calm, and I let myself go with it. Feel the letting yourself go with it. Heartily. More and more completely. It's a good feeling. Natural feeling. In a calm stillness. We experience our natural ease and calm deeply. We let ourselves go with it, heartily, effortlessly. More than relaxation. More than relaxation. Face. Feel a calm in your face. Feel it there deeply. Just going with it. Heartily. Effortlessly. More and more completely. It's a good feeling. We let ourselves feel that it's good. Just going with it. Heartily. More. More. Easy. Good. It's a good feeling. Natural feeling. We experience our own naturalness and we let ourselves go with it. Feel the letting yourself go with it heartily. More and more completely. It's a good feeling. It's quite wonderful. Just going with it heartily, effortlessly. That's good. And just let your eyes open there now and just rest quietly for a moment. Good. Well, that's good. Now there we are. Isn't that extraordinarily simple? And I guess we all managed to feel just a little of what I'm on about. And as I mentioned, if you can stay with me, that is the practice each day, come what may, then it is a very wise thing that we are doing. Sure, there are the natural benefits. As anxiety diminishes, as the mind is allowed to regenerate, which it does during the practice of our meditation, then afterwards we find we sleep better, or there are fewer headaches, or people aren't quite as threatening. We're a little more confident, and so forth and so on. But like I mentioned earlier, as time goes by, our mind takes on a new clarity. It comes to know differently. In time, you become the physician, and it is so healthy to be your own physician. But in order to know what I'm about, it's for you to hang in with the experience of it all. Some people say to me, when I'm doing my practice, what am I concentrating on? No, hang on. What we're about has nothing to do with concentration. Others say to me, how do I make my mind go blank? Well, if you can make it go blank, let me know. No one else has ever done it. So what are we doing? Well, for this little time, we are sitting and we are letting ourselves experience our own natural ease and calm. And you might say to me, well, what is my natural ease and calm? I haven't felt it much over the last few months. And my answer is, when you experience it, you'll know it. But perhaps even during that little practice, you felt a little of what I'm on about. Sometimes early we feel a little restless, or the eyes might flicker, or the fingers dance, or sometimes we'd rather be somewhere else than where we are, but that's okay. That's all a part of tension. But hang in patiently, not being too severe on yourself, and soon things will settle of themselves. Some people ask, when will I get calm? And my answer is when you let yourself, and perhaps even more so when you stop asking the question. You see, there is a little difficulty with what we're about here. Our nature is to want things. You want your house, or I want my car, or we want our children to do well at school. We want our aged parents to be content. And sometimes when we sit to do our relaxing meditation, we want our mind to stop wandering. And do you see what's happened? We're on the wrong track right from the start. We're trying too hard. But in this way of meditation, there is no wanting, there's no trying to be successful at it. It's simply letting the calm come quite effortlessly. And in order to do this, we need to practice a little each day to relearn the natural art of just letting ourselves relax. It's very important not to judge the success of your meditation during the meditation. Sometimes during our meditation, it feels a little onerous or a little arid or sometimes even futile. And sometimes we think, oh, this is no good, I'll give this up, and we go looking for another cure. Be a little patient during this time. Sometimes when we do our practice, it feels quite calm, and that's good. But sometimes when we do it, we feel a little restless and it feels a little onerous, but it's still doing us good. You see, the value of our meditation is not so much during the practice, it's afterwards. The real fruit of what we're about is later when we find that things aren't quite as threatening, or things aren't annoying us quite as much, or sleep is a little deeper. So hang in with your practice, come what may. And then you'll get to see the wisdom of it all. Eventually we will come to live the relaxation in all that we are about. We're not going to slow down. Some people think with meditation we become a little laid back or a little bit indifferent. But this is not so. We're still going to win the game, but this way we're going to win it with ease. And anyway, anxiety impedes our success in life. You look around in sport or in business, those that are moving too frantically are not winning too many games. When we're anxious, we dither and fuss and we procrastinate and we're indecisive. But when the mind is relaxed, it'll come to know the way to do things. But in order to come to live it in all we are about, we need to practice twice each day. And eventually, when we become calm ourselves, we will find that that calmness flows through in the home or the work environment. Oh, that is enough for now. We will rest for a while. Have a little practice yourself over the next few days before you listen to the other side, where we will consider some questions and answers and also have a little more guidance in the actual practice of our relaxing meditation. Silence. Deep within your stillness, there comes a profound peace which not one thing can ever again disturb. I have just listened to the other side, and I have come to the conclusion that really I talk too much. You see, what we are about here is essentially giving talk a rest, letting the mind have a little rest from theories and concepts, analysis, strategies, techniques, and so forth. It is at this time of repose, in this way of relaxing meditation, that we get well. In this state of rest, whereby we let the mind free wheel, so as to say, the mind regenerates. Following our practice, we are better able to cope, and consequently we avoid stress. So we will give talk a rest for a while on this side and have a little practice. Two things firstly. Do not judge how you are going during the actual practice. No, am I doing it right or am I doing it wrong? Simply letting the ease all through and letting ourselves go with it. Secondly, if the mind does wander, not to worry. When aware the mind is wandering or you are a little restless, just come back to feeling the physical calm. Calm in the face, forehead. Now feel it in the mind deeply, and soon the mind will settle of itself. So we remember we're really not trying to do anything. So just for a few moments now, let's sit again, relatively upright. Let your arms rest on your lap. Keep the head upright so that we don't place too much stress on the neck muscles. Now let your eyes close, and for a few moments, as we mentioned, we won't try and do anything. Just being here, that's all. Just let the eyes close and just go along with me just for a few moments, and we'll let the ease all through quite effortlessly. All members of the body, the face, forehead, and we feel it in the mind deeply. Just being here, that's all it is. It's your turn just to leave your worries outside the door, and we won't try and do anything. Don't have to answer me, or don't even have to listen to me. Just being here. Experiencing your own natural ease and calm deeply. Feel it there deeply. More and more completely. Heartily. Effortlessly. We hear the noise, doesn't worry us. If the mind wanders, we come back to the face. Feel a calm in your face. Forehead. Feel it smooth out your forehead. We feel it in the mind deeply. Body. Mind. And we let ourselves go with it. Feel letting yourself go with it. Heartily. More and more completely. Good. It's a good feeling. We let ourselves feel that it's good. We let ourselves go with it. More. More. Easy. Good. Effortlessly. More than relaxation. More than relaxation. Just for a few moments we'll leave our worries outside and we won't try and do anything. Just being here. Just being. Experiencing the naturalness all through heartily, heartily, more and more completely. Face. Feel a calm in your face. Feel a calm in your face deeply. Feel it there deeply. Good. Feel it smooth out your forehead. Feel it in the mind deeply. We let ourselves go with it. Feel letting yourself go with it heartily, naturally, effortlessly, effortlessly. More. More. Easy. Good. Going with the body, mind, face, fire, body, mind. Good. Good. Easy. We abandon heartily, heartily, effortlessly. More than relaxation. More. Good. Easy. It's a good feeling. Natural. Feel it deeply. Going with it heartily. Heartily. Good. It's a good feeling, quite wonderful. Quite wonderful. Going with it heartily. More and more completely. Good. Deeply. Feel it there deeply. Just going with it.
That's good. Then just let your eyes open there now and just rest quietly for a moment. Good. Good. Well, there we are again. And isn't that extraordinarily simple? But like I said, if you can hang in there with the practice, because it's the practice that's the crucial part of what we're about, then really it is one of the wisest things that you will ever do. Perhaps if I explain what I mean when I say it is a very profound thing with an example of a lady who came to see me some years ago. She was a mature age student at the university. She was getting migraine, found that she was having trouble concentrating on her studies. She would read a paragraph and 20 minutes later she was still reading the same paragraph. Anyway, she made a real commitment to the practice of the relaxing meditation, and she used to come to my home and I used to go through the practice with her. People say my going through the practice with them can sometimes help them find the ease and the simplicity of what we're about. Sometimes by ourselves we seem to try a little too hard. But when she came home I used to say things like, well, how's it all going? And she got quite immediate relief from the migraine, so that makes it quite significant. And then she found that the children weren't throwing her out of gear as much at 6 o'clock in the evening, and she found her studies were a little easier. But one day out of the blue she said to me, you know, she said, I hate my father. And I said, which I don't think impressed her very much. But a few weeks later when she came back, she said to me, do you remember when I said I hated my father? And I said, oh yes. And she said, you didn't say to me that's not healthy, or why don't you do this, or why don't you do that? Or why don't you read such and such a book on how to love your father? All you said was, look, hang in with the practice. She said, which I have done. And just quite recently, a real friendship has blossomed. And that's what I mean when I say this way of relaxing meditation is really quite profound. This particular lady wasn't coerced into loving her father, or there was no moral issue discussed, or there was no strategy offered. It seems she became the physician. And that's what I mean when I say if you can hang in there with this practice, you become the counsellor, you become the physician. You simply come to know the way things must be. So in a sense, really, I'm not teaching anything here. I'm showing you a way whereby if you can hang in there with the practice, you'll come to know yourself the way things ought to be. Sometimes your practice may feel a little onerous or even a little futile, but be a little patient during this time. It's still doing us good. Perhaps an example concerning my own self may help. Years ago I met a very wise man who helped me a little with this way of relaxing meditation, and one of the very early benefits I gained was sleep. I never used to be able to sleep, but following only a few weeks' practice, my sleep became quite deep and has continued ever since. Sometimes when I did my practice in those early days, I felt quite calm, although looking back I think I was trying a little too hard. But really the fruit of what we're about is not so much during the practice, but it's following the practice, whereby we find that, hey, I'm not quite as threatened, or people aren't throwing me out of gear as much, or I'm not quite as irritable. Now cherish these things. But sometimes during your practice it may feel a little arid or whatever. I remember one particular practice that I had whereby during this time I felt a little agitated and quite restless really, and I couldn't wait to conclude the practice. And afterwards I thought, well, that was quite useless. But then I happened to drive through the centre of Melbourne, and I found that I didn't experience the customary apprehension. I didn't understand the language back then as I do now, but I think I was, in a sense, a little claustrophobic. And yet here I was, this particular day, after what I had judged a quite a useless meditation session, and yet that very deep and often quite permanent fear of claustrophobia has gone, and to this day, 16, 17 years later, that fear has never returned. That was a valuable experience for me because it proved to me that not to judge the value of the relaxing meditation during the practice, it seems to be still doing us good. So that's why I say to you, hang in, come what may. There is still great value out of our practice of relaxing meditation. And nowadays the science medical people are also saying that many physical problems are perhaps arising out of severe stress. Now, I'm not an expert in these areas, but recently I saw two people. One was a VCE student who was epileptic, and I know that there are numerous other causes for epilepsy, but she said to me that the severity of her epilepsy coincides often with the degree of stress that she's under. Another person was diabetic, and that diabetic person also said that the diabetes control is also affected by stress. And we know ourselves that when we're a little bit tense, the flu seems to hang around, or the cold comes on a little easier, or even the blood pressure is out of sync. So hang in with your practice. It can help us even in the physical sense. But for most of us, 10 minutes or so twice each day will enable us to enhance our own quality of life. As the tensions diminish, we find that we're coping better, we're enjoying life, and we're avoiding stress. Stillness. Physician you are. You take upon yourself our burdens, enabling an ease in all that we do.
This program was produced and presented by Ray Reardon, a senior lecturer working part-time at Deakin University in Victoria. Other material related to relaxing meditation is available from Deakin University Press. Telephone 052 27 1156. Ray Reardon is also available for the presentation of workshops, conference lectures and seminars. He also conducts one-to-one appointments for guidance in relaxing meditation. To contact Ray Reardon, telephone 052 41 8329.